With the first pick,
Thunderstruck! Thunderstruck! Yeah, Thunderstruck!
Welcome into the Fantasy Rant podcast presented by Stadium Rant. Check out Stadium Rant on YouTube and all social media platforms for tons of great content. I am your host, Dan Baker, here with the rest of the Fantasy Rant crew, Evan Gooding, Mason Beck, and Lee Cook. Today, we are going to go over some more free agency news, some NFL news in general, and run our first Dynasty mock since the new landing spots. I'm pumped for this. See how it shakes out. I know we don't have our full rankings up and going yet, but it's going to be fun to see where you got your guys' minds at on some of these players. All right. So, starting off with the quarterbacks for the free agents here, we got Justin Fields traded. He was sent to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh acquires yet another cheap quarterback. Pittsburgh sends a conditional sixth that can turn into a fourth depending on Fields' playing times. Fields just 25 years old in the fourth year of his contract. I think this is a great move for Pittsburgh, but I'm curious where you guys sit on Justin Fields. Do you think that he, like, let's say both Russ and Justin Fields, full healthy season, both of them all year? Do you think Justin Fields will take over at the starter? And if so, around what part of the season do you think he takes over? Mason, I'll send it to you first.
Well, yeah, Russ is definitely going to be the starter at the beginning of the season. We've already seen a bunch of reports that they're not even, it's not even really a battle, that Russ, it is his job. I don't know. I mean, with this offense and Tomlin, if Wilson stays consistent, I could see Fields just riding the bench the entire year. I really lost a lot of value in Fields, but he is a good buy low candidate in my opinion, just because someone next year might give him a shot.
Evan?
Yeah, I think that, if he was to start on this team or just get any playing time, I think that this team is definitely not as strong offensively as it was on the Bears. So I'd say, either way you look at it, he's taking a dip in my opinion. So definitely a buy low opportunity if you still believe. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much going to be, I think it's going to be a fourth, because I do think that he will start in the season. And I think it's only 51% he has to meet, like, snap share. So I think he meets that throughout the season.
That's interesting. I didn't know the snap share mark for him to hit that bonus. They're probably going to keep him intentionally under that mark so they don't have to give up a fourth.
But then maybe they're going to have to pay him anyways. And he's clearly the better athlete right now in this day and age, but I don't know.
Right. What are you thinking, Lee? Banana man.
You kind of touched on it, Evan. That's kind of where I was going. I mean, I think obviously anytime you can get a guy that age, of that caliber, draft capital, and he struggled at times in real life NFL. We know how valuable he is for fantasy, but there was definitely flashes on the field of potential there. Anytime you can get a guy that cheap, you do it, especially when your quarterback situation is what it is or was with the Steelers. The really interesting thing to me is the contract situation. You're probably not going to pick up the fifth-year option. I think that's like $25 million or something in that range. If you don't play him, what do? I mean, are you really just bringing him in as that insurance and you see what happens in practice? I think Russ is going to have to play really well to keep the job, just because if you're trying to build to the future and find out if he can be that quarterback, it doesn't matter how good he plays in practice. You have to see it on the field. No pun intended. So, what do? I mean, if he doesn't play much, that does suppress his value a little bit, but you have to think he's going to be getting at least a Geno Smith, maybe even a Baker Mayfield type of deal, assuming there's no option picked up. So do you really want to invest that kind of money in a guy that you haven't seen proven on the field?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see how far it dipped. Like, it seemed like earlier in the offseason, they were going to be able to trade him away for a day 2 pick, whether it be a second or a third. For it being a sixth with the conditional, like getting up to a fourth potentially, it's crazy how far that dropped, especially considering like yeah, Lee, you touched on it. Next year it would be 25 mil if you want to give him the 5th-year contract or 5th-year extension. I'm assuming most teams are probably would not give him that and then ask him to resign for much less. But yeah, this year, $3.2 million cap hit. It is fully guaranteed, but for a 25-year-old, giving him for a 6th that could be a 4th, I'm really surprised more teams like, the Raiders, Minnesota at this point. Like, you'd rather sign Sam Darnold to a $10 million contract than bring in Justin Fields? I don't know. So that is pretty crazy, but I do think that Fields will end up seeing the field at some point. I do think that Russell Wilson, he's seen better days. He had a solid year last year, definitely a bounce back from what it was in 22. But at this point in his career, I don't know if he's got to really be putting the Steelers in a great position to make a competitive run in order for the Steelers to go, hey, not interested to see what the future looks like for the
Yeah.
guy we traded for. So I do think in the latter half of the season he'll see some playing time. Staying kind of in Pittsburgh, definitely in Pennsylvania, Kenny Pickett on his way to Philadelphia. The Eagles send their 2024 third-round pick and a 2025 seventh. Pittsburgh sends their 24 fourth-round pick and Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett just 25.7 years old. Still got some time left on the rookie deal here. Obviously, just going to be backing up Jalen Hurts, but pretty valuable backup to have there. Especially once you're moving on from Marcus Mariota and you're bringing in Kenny Pickett. Even though I am not a believer in Pickett at all, I think he's definitely an above average backup quarterback. Do you guys see Kenny Pickett returning? Like, do you think this is a buy low moment for Kenny Pickett in Dynasty? Do you think he's going to end up seeing another team getting some starting time, or is this the end of the road?
Yeah, I think he's a buy no. Buy no.
I know. I like that.
He's a buy no. I mean, Philly has always liked to have a more better than average backup quarterback. They've always gone and sought out after that position too. So wasn't a big surprise to me after the performance seeing Kenny either, but definitely a suitable guy to have in case anything does happen to Jalen Hurts. But nothing more to think about it beyond that, really.
Like that.
Yeah, I concur. I'm just still shocked by the compensation the Bears got for Fields. I mean, the Steelers got more for Kenny Pickett. They got the same compensation that the Patriots got for Mac Jones, assuming that they don't, they don't hit the 51% playing time. The Eagles could have had Justin Fields as the backup, and they chose Kenny Pickett, which is just mind blowing, especially with the style of offense, the running quarterback. I did talk to some Eagle fans, in the last week. They were a little upset about that. But as far as Kenny goes, yeah, I'm on board with Evan. I don't. If you own him, you got to hold him and pray that he gets, Hurts gets hurt again, no pun intended. But or
you'll see the Fields and Hurts get hurt.
it's coming natural. But if he's a career backup, I said it. I've been saying it a while. He's a career backup. He'll get some spot starts, but he'll never be the guy for a team the rest of his career.
Yeah, I think this just absolutely killed any value that he still had, even though he barely had any going into this offseason. I just think that, he's going to be a career backup, if even a career backup for that. I mean, he could be out of the league in a couple years. And I have him in actually a decent amount of leagues. I did believe in him coming into the league, sadly. So, I'm trying to trade him for 4th rounds right now, 4th round picks.
Yeah, anything you can get. Completely agreed. Didn't like Pickett before the move and definitely don't like him after this. Got another 2 years on the rookie deal. So he's probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon. I mean, you might still want to try and trade him for anything you can get at this point because him just sitting as the backup is not going to earn you anything unless you're banking on a Jalen Hurts injury and then trade him at that time to a contending team. That's about it. Definitely not trading for him. All right, so Sam Howell, we touched on it last week, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit more. Sam Howell heading to Seattle. Seattle sends a 24 third-round pick and a 24 fifth-round pick. Washington sends a 2024 fourth-round pick and a 24 sixth-round pick. So Washington gets to move up around in 2 different spots here, and obviously Washington sent Sam Howell as well. So interesting trade here. They already came out and reported that they did not bring in Sam Howell to contest Geno for the starting spot. I think that's a load of crap. I think that Howell's definitely going to be brought in, and you're going to be hearing about a quarterback competition heading into the season. I personally think it's kind of a similar situation with Justin Fields. You got the older veteran quarterback. He's going to give you a solid baseline, but Sam Howell could be the future. Geno Smith's contract isn't too team friendly moving forward, considering what he's giving you. It's not terrible. It's not top of the league, obviously, but it is definitely going to, I think, benefit the Seahawks to see what they got in Howell, especially with those with those wide receivers around him. All of them there through 2026 at the bare minimum. So I'd like to see Howell get some experience with these wide receivers before the season end. Same question though. Do you think that Howell, granted, let's say no injuries to either, do you think he takes over Geno's spot as a starting QB somewhere in the season?
I mean, if Geno kind of struggles and doesn't get back to what he was doing 2 years ago, I can definitely see them bringing in Howell. I mean, Howell showed a lot of potential. We saw that, obviously, a lot of mistakes, but, young guy who can definitely fix that. I think he's a decent buy low candidate right now as well, because, I mean, it's not out of the picture at all that he comes in by week 4, if Geno really struggles, and who knows, Sam Howell could become the guy there if he really proves himself in a Seattle offense that has a lot of weapons.
Yeah. Yeah. Evan?
Yeah, living in Seattle, actually, it's funny. In the office, we were having an argument about, is because they love Geno Smith here. They love him. So, and we were kind of comparing, contrasting quarterbacks. And I got in a heated debate with my manager about Sam Howell and how I thought he was a significantly better quarterback. And now the trade happens. And what do you know? He's not very happy. And it turns out a lot of Seattle fans aren't happy. And I think they kind of have it right. Like, they could have just gotten like another backup quarterback if this is what they want him for. And there was other options on the table, unless they do see him as the long term. So if they do see him as the long term, I really like the move. But if this is just the backup play, I hate it. So
the thing I would say there, Evan, is the money, the economics of it. You got 2 more years on a 5th round rookie. You're not going to sign anybody. I mean, Marcus Mariota got like $6 million. That's what I don't like from a Washington fan perspective, that we've replaced. Essentially, Sam Howell was going to be the backup, and he's been replaced by Marcus Mariota. I don't really love that, but conflicted because I'm a Carolina fan. But I'm going to trust in Adam Peters, additional draft capital. Obviously, we're drafting a quarterback at 2. And Mariota is less of a threat. He's more going to be that veteran support. But we saw how many backups had to play. And I don't want to see Marcus Mariota hitting the field at all. That is what it is. As far as Geno goes, he said it famously 2 years ago that they wrote him off and he didn't write back. You should probably start working on that letter. 2 years ago is the outlier. You kind of – obviously he improved, but you kind of – over the body of work, I think we've seen who he is as a quarterback. Slightly below average starter, in my opinion. So we'll see. But I do think, obviously, the ceiling is much higher for Sam Howell. The floor is lower as well because of the turnovers. He can go in and just vomit all over himself. But I don't think you're going anywhere with Geno Smith long term. So, yeah, I think Sam Howell gets in by the halfway mark of the season.
Yep. It's the same thing, man. I don't think Seattle's going to be that competitive to the point where they're a true contender. And why not see what you got from Sam Howell, 23 and a half years old right now. And, 2 years on a cheap deal that could open up some true windows if he starts to thrive in their system. So more backup quarterback talk. Desmond Ridder heading to Arizona. Arizona sent Rondale Moore. Joshua Dobbs signs with San Francisco. Mac Jones traded to Jacksonville. Jacksonville sends a 2024 6th-round pick. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think I have this wrong in the notes here. He goes to the Rams, right?
Yeah, he went to Rams.
Yeah. Tyler Huntley signs with Cleveland to be the third string. And then a few nobodies. Nathan Peterman goes to the Saints, John Wolford to the Bucks, and Josh Johnson to Baltimore. Pressing question though here. Of some of the names we mentioned, Justin Fields, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, Joshua Dobbs, Mac Jones, of those quarterbacks, who do you think will maintain their dynasty value the most after the season's done next season? Who do you think comes out on top?
Howell. I don't see any of the other guys seeing the field unless there's drastic injuries. Howell's the only one who I think can actually win the starting job out of all those guys.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's close. I think most people would say Fields, but I do think that there's still a chance that Pittsburgh decides to move on from Fields. Not worth re-signing him to some type of deal or extending him into the 5th year, whereas Howell makes $1.1 million next year, and that's it. So
I'm gonna go on your choice of wording there. You said maintains. So all the guys that we've mentioned have dipped. The big names there. They've all dipped because none of them are going to be a clear starter where they were last year. I'm going to go to Cleveland, and I'm going to say Tyler Huntley maintains or increases because I don't think he had that much value to begin with. Deshaun Watson is a huge question mark. I'm not so sure Huntley's going to be the third stringer. Again, to me, the offense they run, especially with Watson in there, is more conducive to Tyler Huntley than it is Jameis Winston. I think it's interesting that they brought in both guys, but Deshaun Watson could be the third best quarterback on that team right now. Your $240 million man.
it is embarrassing how much he signed him for. And such a scumbag too.
Yeah.
Allegedly. But no, I do like that we have some depth there. I do think that, this system is not necessarily built around being a mobile quarterback. We saw Joe Flacco come in and have much more success than Deshaun Watson had. But I do think that Tyler Huntley, like you said, based off the wording of the question, will at least maintain the value, also being 26.1 years old, pretty young. So
Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley.
Pro Bowl Hunt.
No, I like Fields here to maintain the most value. Like I said, I think he eventually will take over the starting gig and they'll get that 4th round pick back for him. But other than that, it's really just up to injuries. Seems like for me, like they're really close for me. But Sam Howell probably the clear. Actually, no, Sam Howell the clear second.
All right, let's move on to the running backs here. We have A.J. Dillon re-signing with Green Bay, 1 year, $2.7 million. Joe Mixon gets a big old extension, 3 years, $27 million, only $13 million guaranteed, so kind of more like a 2 year, $13 million-ish contract. Sneaky signing, I think, or sneaky trade for buy low. Rico Dowdle back to Dallas. Likely that Dallas drafts somebody. You can't think that Rico Dowdle is going to be the best back in that field or in that offense, but he's worth an ad. He did fine backing up Tony Pollard, had some pop. So I think that he is definitely worth buying low if you can get him for like a late third. Alexander Madison going to the Raiders, and then just breaking today about 4 hours ago, Deonta Foreman signs with the Browns. So a lot of interesting names here. Let's take Joe Mixon out of this equation here. Of the other 4, A.J. Dillon, Rico Dowdle, Alexander Madison, and Deonta Foreman, who would you take first in redraft? So just 2024. What are we thinking here?
I'd go Madison just because, Zamir White is really the only back there. And I just think that Madison really has the most potential to actually get a lot of time. Even if they do bring someone in, I think Madison can still get a decent amount of work. And after that, I actually kind of like Deontay Foreman. Nick Chubb might be missing some time. And, even when Chubb comes back, they might be slow working him into the offense. I think Foreman's an interesting one to draft and then maybe trade away after a couple of weeks when, before Chubb does come back.
Yeah. Lee, what are you thinking here?
So I like Foreman. I was on the fence, kind of in my head there. I mean, you look at the Kareem Hunt role. He broken down off the streets. Kareem Hunt provided value. How much is Chubb going to have left? Jerome Ford is an interesting running back, but those goal line carries seem to go to Kareem Hunt. They're now going to go to Foreman. But if I have to choose one, it's got to be Rico Dowdle. And, I mean, it's really just based on the opportunity. Yes, they're going to draft a running back. How early? Rookie running backs are a bit of a crapshoot. We know that some pop every year, but there's busts, of course, just like every other position. You're in a dynamic offense. You seem poised to at least get, a running back by committee. I don't see them draft. There's not really that guy in the draft, but you don't see somebody coming in and just taking an Ezekiel Elliott load from 2 or 3 years ago, or 3 or 4 more. So Rico Dowdle in that offense with the opportunity, I think he has clearly the highest ceiling of the guys we mentioned.
Definitely.
Yeah, I like AJ Dillon here. I mean, he was solid, 2 years ago as like a backup, not seeing a lot of carries here too. I'm not expecting him to take over the backfield by any means of Jacobs, but if he goes back into that role where he's behind Aaron Jones, he was productive back. You could flex the bottom end too if you needed him or anything like that. So I like AJ Dillon there. But Rico Dowdle, I don't like Rico Dowdle. I think clearly they're going to draft somebody. So I always hypervalue the rookies that are coming in as well. But they still got Deuce Vaughn, who saw limited opportunities there. It's not just Rico Dowdle's backfield right now as it stands either. I know I'm curious to see Lee's take on Deuce Vaughn. I know we talked about him, during the offseason last year. We were pretty high on him too going into the season too.
Oh, you were pretty high on him.
Yeah, I was. I'm still high. I would try to buy him more than Rico Dowdle, honestly.
That's crazy to me.
It may be crazy. Might be crazy.
Deuce, he's fun. He's fun to watch. It's crazy watching a guy of that size work through 6'7" offensive tackles and guards.
Yeah.
But Rico Dowdle, he looked good on the touches he got last year. He was pretty efficient, over 4 a clip. I think that with more opportunity, he could definitely have some bigger games. That's definitely who I would go with in this bunch, especially if it was last year's running back class, then maybe not. Maybe Dallas takes a first-round running back, tries to move up from where they are. Right now, they have the 24th and 56th pick in the first 2 rounds. I think there's a good chance even you see like Jonathan Brooks slip to 56, not even necessarily slide, like he's probably around there considering that bad ACL injury that he got at the end of his season. So I think that they could end up going that route, even if they brought in who like my RB1 and Trey Benson or another guy like Braylon Allen. I think that in their first rookie season in whatever rookie they bring in, I think that Rico Dowdle will see a pretty relatively even split, at least a 60-40. So I think that'll bode well, especially of the offenses we talked about. Dallas definitely scoring the most per game. So going to be a lot of red zone opportunities. And it's not like he can't catch the ball. He's not known for it. But, he got 17 receptions last year as, not the pass catching back, definitely Tony Pollard's role. So if they bring in a guy like Braylon Allen, who can also catch, but he's not fluid. He doesn't have the hips to just turn and go with the ball after the catch. So I think that he would be a good complement to somebody like that, and definitely is intriguing me. Foreman, just for redraft purposes, I do think he'll be an interesting late round flyer, especially if Chubb is not healing quite as quickly. He's not going to get back for the first few games. Foreman's going to be the goal line back. Jerome Ford isn't that dude, and Pierre Strong Jr. is not that dude. So I think that they'll both be interesting here. Let's see. Honestly, let's move on to the next part here. We got our wide receivers. Keenan Allen is traded to the Bears. The Chargers went from having, I think it was bottom 3 cap space in the league to now having top 4. They have $38 million in cap space. This is why months ago at this point, I was saying they are definitely going to cut Mike Williams and they might move Keenan Allen. Honestly, I didn't fully expect both to happen, but with this move, they now have room to bring in some other players. I do think that Keenan Allen's going to be a great addition to Chicago, especially all signs point towards Caleb Williams. Guys like Keenan Allen are a rookie quarterback's best friend. He is going to create separation, make a lot of easy, short throws for him. Where do you guys see yourself taking Keenan Allen in redraft next year? What round? Mason.
I mean, I haven't really thought about that too much yet. I'll have to more look at boards a little more, but I'd say around like 8. I'd say
Whoa.
maybe a little higher. I mean, just because it is a rookie quarterback, I do have faith in Caleb Williams, but there is going to be DJ Moore there as well. I mean, DeAndre Swift is even going to be taking some targets. I don't see Keenan Allen putting up the numbers he's necessarily put up in the last couple of years, but he's definitely a guy that you'd still be starting in your lineups.
Okay. Evan, local LAC boy.
Yeah, I mean, this may be a little bit biased out of me talking, but I don't think so. I mean, I think he's a comfortable 4-5, fourth, fifth round. Happy with him there too. And this changes the dynamic of two offenses like drastically. Like, where does this put DJ Moore now too? Are they both about the same? I kind of have them about the same tier now. And and what's left of the Chargers, Quentin Johnson may be have some value after all. So just a crazy trade and very hurtful one for your Chargers fan here.
So just for
Lee, I saw you shaking your head.
When you say 8, Mason, you mean the 8th round or wide receiver 8?
8th round.
Okay.
I mean,
you're saying 4th or 5th round, Evan?
Yeah.
So wide receiver 4 or 5. Okay. I mean, maybe if I don't with the name value, the age, I don't know that he would go as late as 8, but I doubt I will own very much of Keenan Allen. I'm out. Rookie quarterbacks, CJ Stroud notwithstanding, rarely support 2 wide receivers. There are weapons there. Keenan is aging. He's going from San Diego / Los Angeles to Chicago. There's a reason people move south into the desert when they get older. And I'm not saying he's elderly. I'm just saying as you age, being in the bitter cold of winter is not going to help your health. And
Are you saying he's signing up for AARP?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
that's what he's saying.
That there is a change there. You're a rookie quarterback. You look at the return and you can kind of see where the NFL values, and some of that was because of the contract, of course, but the age as well. Wide receivers don't fall off as quickly, and he was great last year, but he does have an injury history, and at his age, again, not to hammer it home, but I'm out. I'm out on DJ Moore as well. I'm out on the entire Bears offense for fantasy purposes for 24.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that might not be a good season for you next year, brother.
Yeah.
I think it'll all really come down to, where their ADP is. I'm definitely not out on all of them. Right now, I would put Keenan Allen kind of in between you guys, more like 5th, 6th territory. I'm in a best ball draft right now, so I'm searching for our guy Keenan, seeing where he's going off the board here. Let's see.
I mean, he's still one of the best route runners in the league, debatably the best, and he's not going to forget how to do that going to Chicago. And as a rookie wide receiver, you're going to want to throw to the guy that's open the most.
In best ball, he went at the 411. So I think that's a little bit high for my taste. I would definitely go more like late 5th, early 6th. I think that there's going to be a lot less volume there and a lot less focus specifically on Keenan, especially since last year Mike Williams goes down early, really just leaning on Gerald Everett and a hampered Austin Eckler. He demands volume in order to really produce. I still think that he's going to be a safe contributor for your team. So if you take shots on guys like, let's say like a Jamar Chase or, like into the later rounds, this will be after your pick, but like a Gabe Davis type, this would be a good player to pair with them. But I do think that Keenan Allen definitely lost a lot of value with this move. Let's move on to our next wide receiver here. We got Marquise Brown heading to the Chiefs, 1 year, $11 million contract. Everyone always hoping that the some wide receiver signs with the Chiefs. What do you guys think about Marquise Brown heading there? I personally don't love it for whatever reason. But
sorry, that's my I'm wrong comment, chat.
LOL. All right.
I'll go first here. Hollywood Brown to the moon. I don't think it hurts. I think of the receivers that could have went to Kansas City, is probably the best one for Rashee Rice, because he's going to be the down the field threat. Rashee's going to be taking the short stuff. I would certainly take Hollywood Brown over DJ Moore, or Keenan Allen coming up this season. That 1 year prove it deal also, I love that, because it gives the guy so much motivation to go out and produce. He hasn't had a deep threat this good. Mahomes hasn't since Tyreek left. So give me all the Hollywood Brown shares.
Interesting.
I'm
personally not about it much, just because the Chiefs see such a high two. They see the deep safeties. He's a deep threat guy, and they've been taking that away from the Chiefs. They've been hitting the under shots all game long. I don't see that as much in Marquise Brown's repertoire, but I do think that he can still get the job done, be a solid, I would say not quite late wide receiver 2. I would say more like wide receiver 24 to 30 range.
I mean, this guy has underperformed expectations on every team he's gone to, every single one. And
he did not underperform for the Ravens. He's only been to 2 teams. He underperformed for the Cardinals, but not the Ravens.
I think for what I think he did underperform. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten rid of him. He obviously didn't meet their expectations. So if he met their expectations, he would still be playing for them, in my opinion.
They didn't want to pay him. The same reason the Titans got rid of A.J. Brown. It wasn't because he underperformed their expectations. They didn't want to invest big in him, which maybe we're splitting hairs there. But he had some good years for the Ravens, and this is by far the best, passing quarterback he would have played with.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, just look at what Patrick. I'm not saying Marquise Brown is Tyreek Hill, but just look what Patrick Mahomes did with a fast, deep threat like that. I mean, I think it's a great landing spot. I mean, him, Rice, and Kelsey. It's a good way to spread the floor around for Patrick Mahomes. And I mean, what better landing spot do you want than the best quarterback in the league?
I mean, he's only cracked wide receiver 2 in 1 year out of his 5 years.
All right.
That was 24.
We got to fly through the rest of these here. We got a draft to get to, boys. So Curtis Samuel heads to the Bills. Very interested in that move. Mike Williams head to the Jets. Jerry Jeudy extended 3-year, $58 million for the Browns. Rondale Moore was in that trade with Desmond Ridder, as we mentioned earlier. KJ Osborne headed into a wide receiverless, basically New England Patriots, 1 year, $4 million. Donovan Peoples-Jones re-signed by the Lions. Van Jefferson to the Steelers. Cedric Wilson to the Saints. After that, it's not the biggest names here that we necessarily need to cover. So really quickly, of Keenan Allen with the Bears, Curtis Samuel with the Bills, and Marquise Brown with the Chiefs, who are you taking first in redraft?
Keenan, without a doubt.
Yeah, I'd say Keenan too. I mean, I do like Marquise Brown there, but like I said, I mean, I do think he is better than all those guys talented. Curtis Samuel, I mean, Buffalo hasn't shown consistency to more than one wide receiver. And, as long as Diggs is there, I don't think anyone else is really going to put up great numbers consistently.
Lee?
Real quick, I'm going Hollywood Brown there. I think I've already established that. The 1 year he was at least a wide receiver 2 was the year he played 16 games. So that is the concern for me, is health.
He's got 2 seasons of 16 games. Which one?
Do what?
He's got 2 seasons of 16 games played.
No,
Which one are you talking about? Yeah, he does.
Well, 16
He's got
games
2020 and 2021 with 16. But yeah, I mean, he was growing into his role. Obviously, the second option on that team, and did come up with a 1,000-yard season, 6, 8, and 7 touchdowns in his first 3 seasons. So he's no slouch for sure. But I do think that overall, between Kelsey, Rashee Rice, and Marquise Brown, I don't know if there's going to be enough consistency to feel confident starting him week in and week out.
We'll see. Like I said, I'm higher than some. The other one, I don't think we mentioned him there, but Deontay Johnson. I'm higher on Deontay Johnson than either one of the Bears guys this year, and that's a bit of a bold take, I know, but he's going to get 160 targets with the rest of that wide receiver room. We'll see if they bring in somebody else in the draft, but I look for Bryce to take a step forward also. So I like the price they paid for him as well.
I like your confidence in Bryce. I like your confidence in Bryce too. A little bit of confidence.
Says the Bryce manager. I think we did touch on Deontay last week, but I agree with you, Lee. I would take Deontay over all three of them off of pure. He's a great route runner still, and he's the only guy there. Look at the beginning of Adam Thielen's season. Insane numbers. Yep. Deontay is that, but younger. So I think if he stays healthy, he outproduces all three of these guys. I think that if all three of these guys stay healthy, and I wrote an LOL next to it because it's not going to happen for the guy I'm taking, I am taking Curtis Samuel, highest passing volume by a long shot of any of these three players. Okay, maybe not the Chiefs. Right along with the Chiefs, the Bills and the Chiefs are up there every year. I know there's not a ton of consistency going to the wide receiver 2 on this team, but there's talks about Diggs moving on. You know, he does not seem happy, and he had an atrocious second half to his season last year. If they maintain that same type of game plan, I don't know if Khalil Shakir takes that much of a step into the wide receiver 2 role. I do like Shakir as well as kind of a buy low target. But I think that Curtis Samuel, when he's healthy, he shows that he can do it. It's just a matter of staying on the field.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think Buffalo showed that they don't really have the confidence in Shakir to be a number 2 by paying Curtis Samuel what they did. His thing is health as well. That's what it was in Washington. If he's healthy and on the field, he's still young, and you can use him in so many different ways. So if he can get back to some of that, same offensive coordinator that he had when he was in Carolina, where he had his career year. So I like the match there for sure.
Yeah. All right. So we have one tight end to talk about. It's Hayden Hurst, signs with the Chargers. They already have the guy from Seattle.
Will Disley.
Thank you, Will Disley. So, might be interesting, might be some opportunity if one of them breaks ahead of the other, but really, I don't think any of us are going too crazy over this signing. All right, let's kick it off, boys. We have waited long enough. Let's get into it. We have our mock draft. We got Mason coming at the 4 spot, me at the 6 spot, Evan at the 8, and Lee at the 10. Really quick reminder, boys, turn off your volume on the draft. We don't want any dings.
Good flag.
All right. Everyone good?
Yeah.
Let's kick it.
All right. Well, this is the whole reason why I chose the 1 or 4, because CJ Stroud is going to be top. I mean, I truly think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback, and maybe not next year, but after that, I think Dynasty, he really is 4th most. I honestly value him a little more than Hurts as well. I know that's a little bit of a hot take, but
just because of the rushing upside, man, I can't steer away from Hurts until they take away the tush push, until he starts showing a little bit of, slowing down a little bit with the legs. I got to take him still. I went with Lamar Jackson at the 106. Tempting to take either JJ or Jamar Chase, but Lamar Jackson, consistent forever, and I do think that they end up getting a wide receiver in the draft. Oh, also talking news that Michael Gallup might sign with Baltimore. Not that that's insane, but considering they only have Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, could actually have some value.
I'm going to do something I wouldn't have done last season, but I'm taking CeeDee Lamb over Jamar Chase.
Wow. That is very interesting. Dak doesn't have the extension yet, so maybe he sees a new quarterback next season, whereas Joe Burrow's locked up long term. I still go Chase over Lamb personally, but I do see the appeal. Lamb had the 3rd best fantasy season all time last year, so kind of hard to argue against.
I mean, I'd
Because
take
what
Ross St. Brown over both of them, but you know me.
I know you would. Man. You still think TJ Hawkinson is tight end 1 in Dynasty like last season?
No, I like his replacement more.
What?
Laporta.
Oh, I thought you were saying okay
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
Lions. I was like, who did the Vikings bring in that I missed?
I do not like not taking a wide receiver in a dynasty super flex, but yeah, I had to go Herbert, last really elite quarterback there, and then I went Brees Hall, RB1 in dynasty right now.
The running back is so tough in the second round. I learned that my first dynasty startup I did. I drafted Alvin Kamara way too early, and looking at all the guys I could have had, I've been clawing my eyes out ever since. So can't.
Oh,
make
and just to go over the format, guys, this is a SuperFlex PPR draft. So 2 quarterbacks. We got let's see, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 4 flex spots, and obviously the SuperFlex. So you know, it's nice to have a couple of top end quarterbacks leading the way, but I do think there's some value later on in the draft. I think honestly, a smart move would to take a guy like Puka Nacua, like Chris Olave, or if you're going win now, Tyreek Hill. I can't pass on Christian McCaffrey. Such a difference maker. Truly, league winning type of performance. I believe over 50% of the teams that finished in first last season had Christian McCaffrey on the roster, which is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to go there too. I was going to go CMC because even if, your first year, your team's not looking like it's going to be a true contender, the amount you can get back from McCaffrey is crazy.
Yep.
Like you said, I'm going Puka because
there it is. Yeah, man, he's just so good. It's insane. I'm really looking forward to his career.
Oh yeah, and then man, gotta take him. BCB.
Whoa. Okay, that's very interesting. So through the first few rounds here, we got we got 8 quarterbacks off the board. I think you guys will all know the top 6. Herbert goes at 110, Richardson at 112, Lawrence at 22, Prescott 28, Jordan Love. What a jump he's made. ADP is skyrocketing. He's at the 211. The ADP is messed up on this next one, though. Justin Fields at 212. Sleeper's got to catch up here. And then, Kyler Murray and Brock Purdy off the board. I typically want 2 top-end quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds. There's not a lot of young talent left on the board. And despite, I feel like there's every offseason people are down on Tua. I really don't think he deserves it. I think that he is definitely a top half quarterback, more towards the end of that half. But I think he gets the job done, especially within the system he's in. So I'm rolling with Tua here. Going to be interesting. No wide receivers through the first 3 rounds. Not typically my MO. But Lamar Jackson, CMC, and Tua for the first 3.
Wow, I love seeing that Nico Collins is next up on the ADP here. I love this. He's rose so much, but I already have CeeDee Lamb and Garrett Wilson, so probably going to distribute to some of my other positions and go Kyren Williams here.
Man, Kyren, also one of the craziest jumps in the last year. No one, I don't think, even in dynasty drafts, I don't think people were taking him earlier than the 15th at the earliest. I'll fact check where his ADP is as of last season, but absolutely insane.
Looks like Team 9 went the opposite route. All 3 wide receivers. I wanted to do that, but I couldn't.
It's fun, man, especially when we got as many flex spots as we do in this draft. It's nice having those loaded wide receivers. I don't know if it will make up for having no quarterbacks at that point. You got to really hit on those late round guys.
We'll see.
But interested. So Lee went with Drake London. He's got a nice mix, nice balanced team here. Herbert at 110, Brees Hall at 2-3, and Drake London at 310. He is on the clock now, and he's got his thinking face, stroking the beard.
Tough spot here.
The beard is filled with thoughts and wisdom. Whoa, okay.
No,
Tank Dell off the board in the 4th round. Who would have thought last year?
Yeah,
Two Houston Texans wide receivers in the top 4 rounds, almost the top 3 rounds.
yeah.
Oh, man, I really wanted to take Jonathan Taylor there. I just got sniped. Just got sniped by the auto pick. But
That's what I was between was JT or Dale, and I figured I'd get a little bit more depth at wide receiver.
Yeah, I do love JT though. I think with a full healthy offseason heading into it, this is going to be one of the most fun RPOs to watch in Indy. And it is the team that ran the most RPO last season. Philly the year before that, with Shane Steichen being the OC there. Definitely. Ooh, Devon Achane. I like it. Pure speed.
I think I would actually, if this was real, I think I would go Kenneth Walker here, just because the injury risk behind Achane just makes me so nervous sometimes. So I don't want to live a whole, committed dynasty league with that feeling throughout it.
Yeah, I hear you. Injury scare, still a pretty even mix in the backfield. Nice thing about Achane is he does not need a lot of touches to get that production, and maybe eventually he sees that volume increase. I am, man. This is the problem with going late on wide receivers.
Yeah, who's your wide receiver?
My options here. I am going to take DK. He's still young. He's got 2 solid quarterbacks on the roster right now. And I do think that after this season, Tyler Lockett's gone. So with it, DK and JSN being a 1-2 punch, I think they complement each other very well. They just re-signed Noah Fant to a 2-year deal. So I don't see him as much of a threat. And then Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, they will get some solid workload back there. I don't think it's going to be enough to take away from DK's production overall. Kenneth Walker with the next pick. I'm interested. Mason, would you have gone with Kenneth Walker if he was there for you?
I'm a little stumped here.
Yeah.
But shoot, might as well take him. TJ
Hawkinson stands by his take from last year. It was a good take last year. Ended up working out well for most of the season. Unfortunate injury, but he'll probably be
for half the season.
It's Dynasty. TJ Hawkinson right now, 26 years old. That you're thinking long term, so it's going to be fine. Don't take too much of the injury dip into consideration in Dynasty.
And I'll go T. A little scared about that with the injury concerns, and we have no idea where he's going to go. Leaving a Joe Burrow-led offense, I don't know where he would go that it's much better. There was KC potentially. A lot of people were rumoring that, but I think them signing Marquise Brown shows that they're going to be fine with the wide receiver room they have. So it's a little risky taking T right now, but he's had some good numbers in the years past, so it's hard to avoid him. Say what you want about him, Evan.
No, actually, this is right. This is a comfortable draft spot for me. Before, like last year, he was in round 2, 3, and I was just like, absolutely not. But round 5, I think that's pretty fair value for him, honestly, this year. But right now, you're up, Dan. Why am I?
Yeah, we'll see if Higgins gets moved. I know he's requesting a trade since he has not figured out a long-term deal. Right now, I definitely want to go running back here. I like 2 a lot in Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley. I think that Saquon has the more clear-cut path to success in year 1 on this team. Insane offensive line, even with Kelsey retiring. However, there's a pretty big age difference between the two. I believe Josh Jacobs is about to hit 26 or freshly 26, whereas Saquon is about to turn 28 heading into the season. I'm gonna go Josh Jacobs. I wouldn't do the same in redraft. I do like Saquon for 2024, but Jacobs got a pretty solid deal there, and I think that really the wide receiver threat in Philly with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, and even at tight end with Dallas Goedert, I think they will take away more than Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs.
I need a quarterback here because I've gone 2 wide receiver, 2 running back. So I'm going to take the guy with the longest contract or the biggest contract. Deshaun Watson.
How's it feel? How's it feel?
Taking him and having him be my QB1, not
For
great.
everyone that's just listening, he took Deshaun Watson. If you guys want to, the YouTube page has the draft board up. We're going through them round by round. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
Deshaun
smashing
Watson.
Jared Goff over Deshaun Watson in that spot. I was hoping he wasn't going to take Goff when he's looking at his roster there.
Yeah, I'm interesting. Let's see where Mason's. Oh, he's already got his 2 QBs.
Yeah, I got Brock Purdy, man. Come on now.
Because who else would you have taken if you didn't take Brock?
I'm not a Tua believer. I probably would have gone Olave there.
I should have phrased it better. Right now, if you were up in the 6th, who would you have taken next off the board?
Right now, if I'm up?
Baker Mayfield?
Oh, for quarterback wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Bakeman gonna bake.
I was trying to feed us into another question here. Who would you guys take? Watson, Goff, or Baker? Dynasty, SuperFlex, this format here.
I'd say Goff, just because I think Goff at least has 2 more years of solid production. I mean, Watson, I don't believe in him at all. And partially is that me not wanting to believe in him.
Goff's only 29 and in a incredible offense for his floor, in my opinion.
Right. The only thing is he's heading into his last year of his deal. So I don't know if he succeeds in a different offense. He's had 2 really solid offensive schemes to play under in his time in the NFL.
I expect him to get a new deal before 24 starts based on how well the Lions did in 23.
Okay. Evan, you're up.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid here.
Okay. First tight end off the board for any of us here. Oh, hold on. Yep.
No,
you're right. You took TJ Hawkinson. I wanted Mark Andrews in the 4th. I probably would have considered it even with my wide receiver scarcity there. That is difficult. Rashad White just stays undervalued. No one added on their team yet. I do really need some wide receiver help, though. And with the wide receivers on the board, Christian Kirk is still pretty young. Gabe Davis was brought in. I don't think he is as diverse, I think is the word I'm looking for, as Calvin Ridley. I think he's just pretty much a one-trick pony, downfield target. Christian Kirk, he's going to get peppered with targets this year if he can stay healthy. I do think Zay Jones is also a sneaky buy low target. Zay Jones, I don't think that Gabe Davis will be able to hold him off if Zay Jones is healthy from the wide receiver 2 role personally.
I agree. Zay Jones is a better player than Gabe Davis. And Christian Kirk's clearly the wide receiver 1 now.
Absolutely. And he's going to get
I like Gabe Davis. I don't know. I think I'll be sleeping on him a little bit there, comparing him. Like, is it Zay Jones? Do you think he's better?
Clearly.
No.
I think he's considerably a better all-around wide receiver, yeah.
No. I mean, if Gabe Davis had more volume, we wouldn't be saying that this year.
He's on one of the highest passing volume teams his entire career.
But if he himself got more targets,
targets are earned.
Targets are earned. And when he did get his targets, he proved nothing but success. So he was very successful and efficient with the targets that he had. So just makes you wonder why he wasn't given more of those targets.
My boy and your boy, Lee, Terry McLaurin. Firing him up. Love him as a wide receiver 3. He is boomer bust. It is what it is. He is going to have a rookie quarterback throwing him the ball. Terry McLaurin is a talent. I am still waiting for that DJ Moore breakout like he had last year. DJ Moore did. I still think that he can do it, and he is the clear-cut wide receiver 1 with even less competition with Curtis Samuel gone.
Attaboy, Evan.
There goes your boy Baker.
Baker!
Yeah.
Bakeman gonna bake.
Both of my quarterbacks actually played for Cleveland. Look at
that. All right. Lee, who you got up?
So just took Deontay Johnson. Happy to get him as my wide receiver 3. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, it's kind of at that point too where I'm a little.
Then took my third quarterback. So we got Kirk, Jared Goff, and Herbert. So I got 2 starters every week, hopefully.
It is getting to that point.
There
I think
you
I'm
go,
also gonna keep rolling with it. Go another QB, back-to-back QB, taking Daniel Jones.
Oh boy,
you got to
you
think
have some interesting starters, Evan.
Whew.
Literally, all 3 of them could be without a starting role in a year or 2.
In 3 weeks into the season.
3 weeks of the season, right?
I had Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Love in my main and our OG league that was drafted 3-4 years ago now, and those guys all panned out for me. I like to take risks at quarterback.
Do you believe in these guys as much as you do in those guys?
No, I don't. I really don't. But you know what? I'm happy with it though. I'm still content with this. I do believe in Daniel Jones. I do believe in all these guys. I'm not but not nearly as much as none of them have any of the upside that I thought the other guys do.
It pains me because I love David Njoku so much. Obviously, Browns fan here, but Jake Ferguson, there's CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup's gone, Brandon Cooks is on the last year of his deal. Jake Ferguson still super young, and they don't have a running back there. They can only add so much through the draft. I do think that Jake Ferguson is still a buy low candidate. I personally, just straight up PPR, no tight end premium or anything, I'd be happy to give up a mid-second round pick for Jake Ferguson right now.
All right, I'm gonna go and take Judy. I mean, with that contract extension,
Sure helps.
I feel like they got to be using them. Well, my Wi-Fi is slow, so it's not letting me take it. There you go. But I mean, Judy. Just when you pay a guy that much, you got to expect to use him. I mean, they got Amari Cooper, who could kind of be on his way out soon. Elijah Moore
on the last year of his deal, along with Elijah Moore.
Yeah, Elijah Moore hasn't proven anything enough for Cleveland to go and re-sign him. So, I mean, Judy could be taken over as the primary target.
100%.
It's probably my last pick before we run out of time here. I got to take Jaylen Warren. I mean, I still think that offense is going to be running through 2 running backs pretty efficiently, back end RB2.
Team 5 took Njoku. That was my plan for tight end.
Yeah, I get that. I'm going to take advantage of some weird ADP right now. I do think that Tony Pollard is a lock for a, RB2 for the next 2 seasons. However, we're shooting for upside. We're shooting for a dub in our first season. I'm taking Derrick Henry. I think he's going to put in work behind
dirty
this.
Dog, you dirty dog.
This is why I like it when we're in close quarters here. We got to snipe each other.
Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do. Man, oh man, oh man. Who do I want to take here? Probably, I'm not off the rowboat yet. I'm not quite off the rowboat yet. I'm taking Roschon Johnson.
That is early in my opinion. Over, guys like even Chuba Hubbard, who I think is likely to get the starting role. James Conner, he's going to be the starter this year. I would have taken them over them, who very much value youth.
Yeah, well, I like teams that have some longevity behind them too. I don't know how many more years James Conner has left in the league, and I don't like to hold bags.
Lee, you just got my favorite late round target. Evan Ingram, incredibly consistent, just extended last season. And we talked about it earlier. They lose Calvin Ridley, bring in Gabe Davis. I think Evan Ingram, let me just pull it up right now. I think he had 8 targets minimum all season. Okay, other than week 1, he had 7 targets in almost every single game except 2. In those other 2, he had 6 and 6, and then 5 in the opener.
If I can't get one of the top game changers, give me a floor tight end for sure.
100%. And that's all you need. You need to not lose at the tight end position when you have other valuable starters. Jameson Williams, interesting. I traded him away in both leagues that I had him last season. He still had a ton of value, so I was willing to give him up. I think that they're talking about getting him more and more involved. I think there is definitely going to be value there. But I still can't quite get behind drafting him even in the 10th.
Dude, the 10th is so late, dude.
It's super late. I'd rather take somebody who's going to be a guaranteed contributor, and I just don't know if Jameson's going to be that, or even if he is, if you're going to be able to guess the weeks where he is a true starter. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for the radio broadcast here. Evan, I know you have a hard out as well.
Yeah.
Everybody in Atlanta, take it easy. Have a good week. We're going to extend it just through the end of this round here. Evan, if you got to get going, we got it, man. No worries at all. We won't be going too much longer here, boys.
Looking forward to seeing that poll pulled up. I guess auto draft for me, or do who you think I would pick. Just pick on youth. Just pick everybody.
I was gonna say I'll just pick whatever rookie's available.
Yeah, there we go.
Easy. All right, boys. You guys down for just taking it through the 12th round here?
Sure.
All right, let's get it. All right, so kind of on that same note, I have a difficult decision. You know what? Let me review really quick. We got I got Lamar Jackson at quarterback with Tua as my second, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs at running back, DK Metcalf, Christian Kirk, and Terry McLaurin at wide receiver, and then Derrick Henry in the flex here right now. Still looking for contributors to the lineup. Don't want to completely give up, the future here. So guys like Raheem Mostert are interesting, but I don't think he's going to be worth it. He could, last year was a miracle that he stayed healthy as long as he did. So I am going to roll with Michael Wilson. I think that he has an interesting combination of opportunity this season and youth. Really, there is no other wide receivers there. Marquise Brown, gone. Rondale Moore, gone. So it's basically Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch. Am I forgetting anybody? Is that it?
Now that Marquise and Rondale are gone. I mean, most likely Marvin Harrison Jr., but.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, and I'm very comfortable with Michael Wilson being maybe even the third target, considering Trey McBride. Sure. He's going to take away some of that volume. But I think Kyler's got a decent downfield ball. And I think that Michael Wilson can mix in some bigger plays along with being still a bigger bodied, able to make those possession catches. And he's going to have a lot of the focus taken off him with Marvin Harrison Jr. joining.
All right. I'm going to stand my ground here and take my boy Jacoby.
I love it, man. That was one of your best calls that we gave you the most shit for last year. We were wrong. I'll just straight up say it. We were wrong. And until Aiden O'Connell took over, we were wrong.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, he finished as a wide receiver 24, and Gardner Minshew is an improvement than Aiden O'Connell and Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion, at least for fantasy value. So, I mean, I can expect wide receiver 2 numbers out of Jacoby Myers again, and who knows? I mean, it's looking like it's not happening, but Devontae could be gone as well. Yeah. And right here, I'm going to take Chase Brown.
I wanted him. I intentionally did not say him last round when I was mulling over like Raheem Mostert or like Chase Brown was the other guy on the list. So I didn't mean to talk over your pick though. Do you want to say more on him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be the starter. I know you got a lot more faith in Zach Moss, but I see at least a split backfield coming from them, and Chase Brown being only 23 years old. Zach Moss is on a 2-year deal. Maybe this 1 year Zach Moss does get a little better, but we are thinking long term. So I think Chase Brown is at least going to be a decent asset for a couple of years.
I like it. I think he's going to be the lightning to the thunder. Probably see like a 70-30 split with him being the 30. I think Moss is going to get a lot more volume, but I think that Chase is going to get more volume than he saw last year. And really, we saw what he can do with that. He's a big play waiting to happen. All right. So, honestly, I am kind of split. I like Kendre Miller for long-term value. Alvin Kamara is not going anywhere this year, but he could be cut for cap space the year after. I like Jahan Dotson from the wide receiver spot. I think that with Curtis Samuel gone, I think Jahan is not getting his fair shake. I don't think that he is what his numbers were last year. I think he's got a lot more talent than that. Still has first-round pedigree going into his third year, young guy. going to get a rookie quarterback, so might not look great for the first season with them. But I do think that overall he will continue to see his stock rise. And then Dalton Schultz, I have Jake Ferguson as my tight end 1. I don't love that, I'm fine with it, but I don't love it. So it'd be nice to have another guy that has some pass volume, some consistency in Dalton Schultz. I'm going to go upside, though. I am going to take Jahan Dotson. I just think there's enough there with the talent. I think that there's going to be a pass-heavy offense, and I do overall think that even with all of the offseason additions that Washington has made to their defense, which have been solid, very solid improvement there, I still think that it's not enough to keep them from being, in negative game script most of their games.
Give Evan
Oh, yeah.
Justin
Kendrick.
Ross.
Yeah. I'd say Kendrick.
Honestly, that's hysterical. I can't resist. He's so high on Justin Ross, guys. You
He's
can't
very
not
high.
take him. What a steal.
You would think so.
Oh man. What I still have the counter, boys. It's we're at 24. And I think that was I think about 20 of them was preseason. All right. League goes with Cole Kmet. I'm interested. Why Cole Kmet over Dalton Schultz?
Those were the two I was considering because I already drafted Tank Dell. I didn't want to stack the Houston receiving core too heavy. A little worried with the two wide receivers there, but again with a rookie quarterback, coming in, especially early on, they tend to default to the tight end a lot, that safety blanket. And we saw Cole Kmet take a step up this last season. So he's only 25 years old as well. So a little bit younger than Schultz.
Yep. I think those are all fair points, especially, don't want to, even though the Texans passing offense is solid, you don't want to rely on two Texans starters there. All right. You're up with your second pick. Your last pick, we're capping it off at 12. Hopefully next time we do a mock draft, we'll have time to finish off the roster here, get into some of the deep nitty-gritty picks that can honestly make or break a dynasty roster sometimes.
I'm going to take my big swing because, again, I'm a ceiling guy at this point for a lot of positions. You can always cut bait, but I'm going to take a big swing here, and I do believe in the flashes he showed. So a lot of opportunity open up for Marvin Mims.
I do like that. I do think that not enough people are thinking about him right now. So that's a great pick. Only him and Cortland Sutton there. They did bring back Tim Patrick. We'll see if he's healthy enough to really make an impact. I'll be fair and objective. I do think that he would probably go with a guy like Kendre Miller in this spot. But how many running backs does he have? Just 3. 2 of them are Achane and Roshan Johnson. I do think that he would probably make a pick like this, even though I do want Kendre Miller in my next pick.
I mean, he was very high on A.J. Dillon earlier. I'm just saying.
He was. I saw that name there, too, and I was like, I can't do him dirty twice. So I will end up giving him Kendre Miller. Let's see here. Quentin Johnston showed nothing, has all of the opportunity in front of him, even if they end up drafting a guy like Rome Odunze or get lucky and get Marvin Harrison Jr. Just him, Joshua Palmer, and QJ. And then even at tight end, just Hayden Hurst and blanking on his name again. Why? Help me, boys.
Which I will say for the Chargers, I think Neighbors is pretty clear going to be their 5th pick. I'd be shocked if that's not who they went with.
It needs to be, but management was talking about bringing in a tackle, which I think is insane.
I mean, that does seem like the Jim Harbaugh way, but
right.
That would be shocking.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't see a world where they don't go wide receiver, but maybe they do. Maybe they bring in a guy like Michael Gallup.
Maybe they go T. Higgins.
I think Darnell Mooney would be worth the shot. I think Gabe Davis would have been worth this value if I didn't already have Christian Kirk on my team. So honestly, I do need a third quarterback here. And I do think that both of my starters are going to hold their job at least for the year at the bare minimum. So I'm going to stick with what I was talking about earlier. I'm going to go Sam Howell. I do think that by next season, he will be the starter for Seattle.
Yeah, and I'm going to get my third quarterback as well. And I mean, I don't know how much real dynasty value Aaron Rodgers has, but in SuperFlex leagues, quarterbacks are kings. I mean, all it takes is someone else that's a contender, their starting quarterback to go down. There you go. You trade Aaron Rodgers, get a little more value than where you're actually drafting him at here in the 12th. I mean, 12th, 13th is probably where I'd see him going because, I mean, he could play 2 more seasons.
Or he could be the vice president of the country this time next year. Who the hell?
Amazing. No vaccines for anyone except Aaron Rodgers. All right. So that's going to cap it off for our startup SuperFlex Dynasty Mock Draft here. Hopefully next time we will be able to get to cover a little bit more, dive into those later rounds here. Well, let's cap off the team that we have through 12 rounds. Mason, I'm going to send it to you first. Kick off your team.
So my quarterbacks, I got CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy. Those are solid guys that you believe in. And then Aaron Rodgers, like I was just talking about, my third quarterback for insurance or to trade off. My running backs, I got Rashad White, Joe Mixon, Jalen Warren, Chase Brown. A lot of upside, I think, with Chase Brown. The other 3, I think, are good plug and plays. I mean, Mixon is probably going to be back-end RB1, low-end RB2 for the season. Rashad White, if they don't bring anyone in, could be a top 5 RB again. Wide receiver position, Puka. Puka's probably going to be a top 12 receiver for his entire career unless we see a drastic change, or maybe when Stafford leaves, that could change. T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy, Jacoby Myers. And then at the tight end position, I got tight end number 2 in dynasty value, TJ Hawkinson.
Who's number 1?
Laporta,
you did say that, actually. Yeah, that's right. All right. So for my team, I have Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa, and Sam Howell as my quarterbacks. I have Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry as my running backs. Definitely would have started hitting on some of those, later or younger running backs if we moved on. DK Metcalf, Christian Kirk, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson as my wide receivers. Interested to see if Jahan can take over Terry's spot if Terry moves on sooner than later. Then we got Jake Ferguson at tight end. Did I say Michael Wilson for my wide receivers? I think I skipped over him. But yeah, we'll put up a poll on my Twitter. But Lee, why don't you hit your team before we take off here?
Yeah, so feeling really good about my ability to compete now and for the future. With Justin Herbert, quarterback for QB1. I got Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins I can rotate between for QB2. Went Breece Hall and Saquon Barkley as my top 2 running backs, and then I have Zamir White as my third stringer. Really like his upside and an open backfield right now. I don't see Alexander Mattison threatening his volume there. We went Drake London, Tank Dell, Deontay Johnson, and Marvin Mims. Probably a little younger on the wide receiver room than I would have liked in retrospect, but I really believe in Deontay Johnson this year. And then Drake's going to be the biggest riser from where the season ended to obviously when the season starts and we really start seeing ADP. I got that little stack with Kirk Cousins and Drake, so I like that as well. And then tight end, I went Evan Ingram and Cole Kmet. Really just some floor plays there. Give me 6 to 8 points a week at tight end, and I think I can win pretty much any matchup.
Yeah, and I do honestly think that you got some of the steals in the draft. Zamir White in the 10th round, he was just given such a crazy workload last season. I don't think he's an insane talent or anything like that, but follow the volume, man. You got to go where the volume leads, and I do think that the offense overall is going to be top middle of the pack, like that 10 to 12 range, putting up enough points to support a goal line back like Zamir White without the passing work. I'm looking forward to seeing Gardner Minshew sling the ball. put his wide receivers in a good position, and then Zamir White coming in for a bunch of red zone TDs. Let's say it can be your team. It can be any of our 4 teams. Who do you think was the biggest value pick in the draft? Mason, I'll send it your way first.
I mean, I would honestly probably. Oh, let me look over it a little bit. Maybe Jacoby Myers. Not gonna lie. I mean, guys, I'm still big on the Jacoby Myers train. I mean, I'm thinking he's honestly worth a 8th or 9th round pick. You guys can laugh again, but when he's wide receiver 24 or better, then we'll be back to this conversation again next year.
I was giving you credit earlier, and I was just talking about Gardner Minshew slinging it. He's a part of that equation. So I do think that Myers is a solid value at 10 or in the 10th round. I'll stick with what I say. I think Zamir White was the best value pick in this draft. Youth, volume, opportunity. He's got a good setup here. What are you thinking, Lee?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just kind of looking over the teams, I mean, value, if I'm looking at my own team, I think Saquon in the 6th round, and he's 27, but he's always been in such bad offenses. He legitimately has a chance that he could be RB1 this season. Yep. I mean, he's really one of the few guys that I see that could just have, just outstanding value, not just here, but going forward as far as running backs go. And I do think his draft value obviously is going to be higher in redraft, but dynasty-wise, I still think you've got a solid – it was a 3-year deal he signed. I think at least 2 of those, but I think all 3 seasons he could be a really solid RB1. And then the other one that really stood out to me, Dan, and maybe I'm a homer, but I think Jahan Dotson in the 11th round. And again, I know what his numbers were last year, but I also know what his numbers were in very limited time as a rookie with terrible quarterback play. Yeah. It's odd that we had more passing attempts than any other team, and no one really – I mean, Terry barely got 1,000 yards. The amount the ball was spread around was a little odd. I think with a reset on offense with Cliff Kingsbury coming in and a rookie quarterback, Terry's not getting any younger. I still believe in the pedigree and I believe in the talent. So I was a little surprised you took Michael Wilson over him, but the fact that you were able to circle back and get Jahan Dotson, again, maybe a little bit of a homer pick. But, I still believe in Jahan as a high potential wide receiver in the NFL for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Yeah, like you were saying, Terry McLaurin last year finished in full PPR formats at wide receiver 28, Curtis Samuel at 42, Jahan Dotson at 56. Insane that they had, a top 6, I think it was, quarterback in fantasy. And, it's not like Logan Thomas did anything at tight end really either. So really did spread the ball out there. I think Jahan Dotson does see a step up in volume. With Curtis Samuel leaving there. Not ideal to have both Jahan and Terry McLaurin on the same team, but I do think that overall they're going to see the volume. And, with a guy like Zach Ertz at tight end, they did bring in Eckler, but we'll see how it goes. I took Wilson over Dotson just because we had a 4-flex league here, and I needed someone who I think is going to contribute immediately. But yeah, I do love Dotson in the 11th. And Mason, out of your picks here, I do like Chase Brown at the 11th. In the 11th round, a guy that can have truly game-breaking speed, a guy that, Zach Moss was brought in, but it's not like he is a guarantee to be the leader in this backfield. If Chase Brown gets that volume, he is really going to put up numbers. All right. That is going to do it.
One quick question before we go, Dan. And again, I'm curious your guys' opinions. I know we all probably think pretty highly of our team, but looking at the 4 teams that we drafted, I've got a clear 4th place team. So I want you guys to look them over right quick. And who would you put as the 4th place team? The team that's most likely to get the 101 in our rookie draft next season from this imaginary league.
And let's just say that I gave Evan, Let's go Gabe Davis since he was talking him up instead of Justin Ross. I'll even make that move officially. That was funny though. If my answer wasn't clear enough, it is Evan in my opinion.
Yeah, mine too. I mean, he's got two great receivers, and I mean, I like his first 4 picks a lot, but I mean, I love Bakeman obviously, but he's not an elite level producing fantasy quarterback on a consistent basis. And then, I mean, just Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to go far with those 3 as your quarterbacks.
So yeah, that was mine as well. Not trying to dunk on him because he's not here. I certainly would have said it if he were still on the show. In a super flex, you don't have to have 2 QB1s to win. You can. I mean, I won a championship with Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, and Trevor Lawrence rotating between the 3. But you better have some depth, and you better have 2 surefire starters. Deshaun Watson, I'm out. I think we'll never see the Deshaun Watson we saw in Houston and Cleveland. And I'm sorry for that, Dan, because I know you desperately want to see that.
I am also sorry that we signed him to such a big deal, but I was pretty much on board since the moment we brought him in.
And honestly, as far as Daniel Jones goes, I would not be surprised at all if Drew Lock beats him out and is the starter of the season.
Right. With the money that they're giving Daniel Jones, I feel like he has to be given a long leash. But I agree with what you're saying. The only thing is I think Drew Lock thrives with talented wide receivers that can go up and get those 50-50 balls. And right now he's going to be working with Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton. It looks like even Darren Waller is going to retire. They have no pass catchers on that team.
Yeah. I see that, but I don't know that his leash is as long, because you get to a point as a coach and you don't care what your players are getting paid. You've got to win to keep your job. Brian Daboll has another season like he had last year, and he's going to be offensive coordinator somewhere. So
no, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Obviously, he's not going anywhere off the roster, but after this season, if they decide to move on from him next offseason after June 1st, only $11.1 million dead cap. So this year it'd be $69.3 million. And if they even cut him before the June 1st cutoff date, it would be a $22 million dead cap. But I agree that if they somehow get a ton of wide receivers in the draft that can make those contested catches, I do think that Drew Lock has a good shot of contesting. Daniel Jones is just not it. And you're not, even if he is good enough to win you some games, you're not winning in the playoffs with Daniel Jones. Neither Drew Lock, but
he looked good in that. Who did he beat? Did he beat Philly? He came in and beat Philly, didn't he, in the regular season? I know Philly was on a downward spiral, but he looked good in that game, I think it was.
When he played against the Niners, too, Drew Lock looked pretty solid in the game.
He played against San Fran and Philly. I'm just going off sleeper, so I don't got the results of the game. But, not crazy fantasy stats, but I do believe I remember him winning in a primetime game against
that was the Philly game, and he had to drive him down late.
Philly week 15, we know Philly had a huge downfall, so I think you're right on that. Good call. All right, boys, that's going to do it for this week on Fantasy Rant. Make sure you join us next week. We will start covering more rookies again as we start heading into NFL draft season. I'm sure if any of this free agency news starts breaking again, we will be there for that. All right. Have a great week, y'all.